Welcome to class number 4. I feel like we've had more than 4 classes, which I think is a good sign, right? Maybe it doesn't feel that way for you. Maybe just on our end, because we're constantly working on stuff, it feels like there's been more classes. Today we're really going to talk about, so now that we've learned these question types and we're starting to do sections and starting to do tests, what does this mean? How do we review it? Some people reached out to me with great questions this week of like, well, how should I review this? What should I do? I think some of you I responded to like, hey, just focus on these questions, but don't stress out. Like that's part of the approach where we're going to dive into that a little bit this morning or this morning first. And then we're going to introduce strengthen questions, and we're going to talk significantly more about flaws. And then we're going to review some of the questions from practice test 61, but just the questions that, the question types that we've covered. Did anybody feel like when they took practice test 61, that one section had a lot more of what you knew than the other? There was you might not have noticed it. One person, I'm gonna think, who was it that got, it might have been Naya. Did you give significantly better on one over the other?
Yes.
I'm gonna say I noticed that. I was like, I wonder if she felt it. One section had significantly more of the question types we just covered, which happens sometimes, and that's why I really wanted us to do both sections, because I figured that would sway our results depending on which section that you did. All
I felt the
right.
same with the third section.
Yeah.
I was like,
the second LR section was the one that had more question types that we've covered.
one of them was
Oh, you're breaking up. Whoever was
like
speaking.
was smoother.
I'm sorry, who was that? You were breaking up.
One of them was smoother than the other.
Oh, one question shorter. Yes. All right. So FYI, I had my intermediate vlog class, play free class today. I have the recording. It just got uploaded, so I can send that out. I can put this in the Slack after we're done. It literally just got done processing. And then we kind of are slow on classes till after Christmas, just because we're kind of taking a little bit of break of offering the classes. For homework help, we do have a couple not significant changes, but Thursday is Christmas Eve. So we're going to do Wednesday instead with a Karshna. And then next week, we're going to do Monday and Wednesday as well, because Thursday is New Year's Eve. So just FYI there.
And I will say, if folks like can't do Wednesday evening, message me, because I might be able to do something on like Thursday afternoon. So like just want to give some flexibility there too.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasmine. As I put asterisks here because I'm like, I don't know if they know this, but just kidding. Okay, so I did change the homework a little bit to give you at least one day off for Christmas, right? Yes, we are still going to have class on Saturday, and it's going to be recorded. I think that Saturday we're really going to try to do a short class, though, if everyone's okay with that. Kind of like, hey, let's show up, let's do our work, and then we can go enjoy time with our family. You can send me feedback. Like I'm on that if you want, but I'm thinking like an hour. Maybe that's not. You can give me feedback if you disagree with that. So for homework, essentially all I did was move everything off of Friday, so nothing's due Friday, and then for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all of this is the only homework I'm going to add. So I don't care what days you do it. Like, so if you want to take 3 days off for Christmas, you totally can, and you can push all this back. I just kind of put it on these days instead of saying like it can be due any day. So if you want to take 3 days off for Christmas, totally take 3 days off for Christmas. Ray sent me his week on a page. Actually, you're the person that made me realize that it was Christmas coming up so quickly, because you put rest, and I was like, why is he resting so much? And then he's like, he's taking Christmas off. So yeah, I'm not judging. And then your page is like actually on 2 pages. So you have to scroll down to see when you're studying. So when I looked at it, it looked like you were like studying only during class time. Anyways, no, you're studying plenty. All right, so just an FYI on the review. So these are the 3 sections we've done so far. So the LR 61 sections. So one thing to keep in mind here is we did these timed, right? So they weren't always, we might have missed a lot. We might not have gotten to all the questions. These are the questions I went through and pulled out the questions these are the questions that we've actually reviewed. So we've like done these before. So if you missed any of these questions, this is a great starting point on our blind review. Like if I was only going to spend a majority, rather than reviewing the whole section, especially these question types that we haven't gone over yet, don't waste your time with that. Focus on the ones that we have. And then for 59 LR1, these are also the questions. So especially 59 LR1, since we did this one untimed, if you missed any of these questions, that would be like, I think some of you submitted it and you missed 2 or 3, great starting point. The second starting point of studying is the first 12. We should not miss any more. Right now we might be because we haven't gone over all the question types, but ultimately we should not be missing more than one of the first 12. And if we are, that should be our like where we spend our time. Granted, I know we're not there yet because we haven't gone over all the question types, so that's not completely fair yet. All right, I need to write this down because I keep asking it. Who is actually taking January? Ray. Okay, I have Ray. Lynn. Is that it? Ray and Lynn? Tatiana's moving it. Okay. Amara, are you taking it? Okay, Amara. I think that's okay. It's actually much fewer people than I thought. Okay. All right. So so we have our section that we did. The first one that we did was untimed, correct? How did you feel about your accuracy actually doing a section untimed? Did it feel kind of the people that submitted it so far have done pretty well on the comparison for only going over a couple questions. Let me look at some that, like Heather's not here, but she did really, really well. Naya, you did great. Ronley, you did great. Malika, we have a lot of, like, for people that have already submitted 59. I know not everybody's done it yet. Like if you're getting 5 or 6 more right in an untimed section, that's awesome. So as we move forward and we do our sections, this is how I recommend taking the section. So have anybody heard the debate between do you do timed sections or untimed? If anybody like heard, maybe you haven't, like there's like a big debate out there. And Jasmine, if you have tips, please jump in on this. But this is how I would typically do it, is I would set a timer for 35 minutes, or if you have extra time, set your timer for whatever you have, like however, like if it's 53 minutes, set your timer for 53 minutes. And then I just take my section as is. As I go, if I'm not 80% certain or more on a question, I flag it or I star it and I move on. So if I answer it, I go at a slower pace. I might only get to 17 questions and say I flagged 3. Once I run out of time at that 35 minutes, then I mark it. So I say, oh, I only got to 17, and I finish the section untimed. And it's really important that you finish that section and in like a space to learn, because typically those questions are harder, right? And you might need more time on them, and that's totally okay. But by doing those questions and hopefully working on our accuracy, that's actually how we tend to get faster at the easier questions. So it doesn't happen overnight. But the important part here is that it's okay that we're not finishing sections. Some of you, I love Sumatra, you set great notes. So she's like, one of her sections, she was like, I only got to, on her time test, she got 14 out of 16, but she only got to 16 questions. Like that's amazing, like 14 out of 16. Like if you get to 1 more question each week, you're going to be killing it. So that's the goal. Someone else got to like, only got to like, if we're only scoring in the 10 to 14 range, that's okay, as long as our accuracy is there. And so that's why we can't rush through these things. So then once I finish my section, so say, and this is where last class Kamani was like, you want me to do what? So this I could take with a grain of salt at first, but every question then that I flag, so say I flagged 10 questions, I go back and try once more in the untimed scenario before I grade it. And like sometimes as you get better, like you're going to have fewer questions that you flag, but this is so that when you're not pressured, if you would go back and review it, would you change your answer? Know that, so this also helps that when you're taking the section, does anybody get really nervous and they're like, oh, I should have went with my gut, but I said this anyways. And then you get caught up in the time and then you get nervous and then you just select one and you don't really love it and you move on. This allows you to have that opportunity to, you know what, go with your gut and move on, and then come back and look at it once more before you grade it. So then you don't get caught up in that space of, I think Ray was saying this, you had like 10 questions that you were like between two, right? Right, maybe. And like, how can we narrow that down so it's only like 4 or 5? Because that would be, I mean, that would be huge for your score. And then after I do those, then I grade my section. And then whatever questions I miss, I attempt those questions again. So right now, as your sections go on, if you're missing like 10 and that's too much for you to review, make sure you're definitely paying attention to the question types we've already covered. If you need to, like, if you really need to narrow in on your time. And then this is the part that people hate doing, but it's so important. Every single question that you flagged and every single question that you missed, you should review with external sources. And this is the people that this is how you go from missing 15 to, or people that, especially those that are already in the 50s wanting to go to the 60s, this is how you go from missing 10 to missing 5 or 6 to 4. Is you have to be, even the questions that you got right and you flagged, if you don't know why you got them right, go to Manhattan Prep or go to LSAT CACs or wherever you read and just read their explanations and see if it sorry, our car's just clapping and it got me distracted for a second. See if your reasoning was right, because if your reasoning was right, it might be a quick review and you're just going to affirm that, and then you're going to hold on to that confidence in the future, or you're going to learn something. Because if we're flagging questions, clearly there's still an opportunity to learn. And then questions that we miss. I think that Jasmine sent out a wrong answer journal. I'm sure it's wonderful. The main things that I pay attention to is what question type was it? Was it a bottom up or top down? Why was my answer wrong? And why was the right answer right? Just those 4 things. Like, I know there's more to it out there, but for me, I'm not someone that reviews my notes a ton. I more so need to go through that process just to force myself to go through the process of actually asking, why is my answer wrong? And this is so important, because if you can't explain why your answer choice is wrong, oh yes, Tatiana, thank you for saying this. I can send this out later too, because I should have made a slide of this on my answer journal. Question type, if it's top down or bottom up, and that's because we might start to see like, oh, I really struggle with top up or bottom up questions or top down. And it's not just a trend between a question type. I actually think when Akarshna was studying, I noticed that you were struggling with one or the other, right? I feel maybe not.
It kind of skipped around, because when I first came to you, I was doing really badly on must be true and most strongly supported. And then it completely switched. And then I went to like strengthen, weaken, and flaw at one point, like 2
Okay,
weeks
never mind. Like sometimes you'll realize that there's like, it's not necessarily a question type you're struggling with, but it's a skill set that you need to like hone in on, and it can help you across the board. So you have to question type, is it top up or bottom down? Why is your answer wrong? And why is the correct answer right? And if this is overwhelming for you right now, and you're not getting all of the first 12 right, or the first 12 right, or the first 15 right, maybe for your review, you're only going to focus on the first 15 right now. And that's okay. If you're not quite to if you're not scoring beyond that. But for those of us that are taking January or wanting to score above that 160 range, we need to be reviewing the whole section. Does anybody, I put a video from the last class that I did this on the website too, of me kind of it's like 4 minutes of me walking through this. Does anybody have any questions on this? Excellent. All right, so a question of the day. Go ahead and try this one and put your answer in the chat.